Yeah, I get that. I usually read it pretty well.
Okay, so we have a few minutes on page 325. It is the notion of pre-motion or predetermination or concursus or concurrence. So you have 4 words that means almost the same thing. But you must know that because sometimes they will say concurrence, sometimes they will say predetermination. In theology, another word, predestination. But in philosophy, we don't speak about predestination. Okay? The communication of motion of God is called by some pre-motion or predetermination. It is the word used by St. Thomas. To do something, and by other, a concursus concurrence. Okay, you have some definition. You will read page, physical predetermination. Read that when you have. In fact, Father Werner is very useful. Huh? So if you don't have the dictionary, you have at least some word in. The second point, the communication of motion by God is not the best tool of reality distinct from the transient power. You know, we said that God gave us a transient power to see, to do something. So that is the motion of God. God is moving us to do something. He's sustaining us to move, to do something, by which the created agent participates in the production of essay. That it produces the becoming of a new beings. For example, when the carpenter makes a desk, he works in the becoming of a new being. Every time you do something, it's new. As a being, as a desk, for example, even if you produce 1 million plastic bottle, the last one is the new bottle. Everyone is a new bottle. Okay, so in that motion, you are sustained by God. And finally, the third point, but the communication of motion by God is simply another facet of the dependence of creature causality on God's causality. In fact, what we say here about motion of God, in fact, I already spoke about that during the present hour. It's only a repetition. And you have the text of Father Monseigneur Jolivet. Read that. It is very simple, very clear. Monseigneur Jolivet is a teacher. He tried to simplify things. So I don't have time to work on that. I go now to the second part of the course tonight. It is the problem of evil. The stumbling block for many people is there. The stumbling block. The formulation. In explaining the rightness or righteousness and goodness of the divine causality as it extends to every single entity, being, entity, ens in Latin, ens, being, present participle of esse, ens, being. And to every mode of being, so not only to single entity, that means to every being one by one, but also the action of God goes up, the mode of being. Remember that, the mode of being, quantity, quality, relation, action, passion, etc. All those modes of being are sustained also by God. Okay? It becomes necessary to treat the problem of evil. A few questions. First, if God exists, whence comes evil? For example, somebody will say, why did God not create a world without evil? Why did He not create a perfect world? Everything will be perfect. Nobody will commit a sin. Everything will be perfect. You know? It was like that before man arrived to exist. Men and women both, of course. No, why? Because man is free. In fact, the big problem, how to conciliate the omniscience, omnipotence of God with human freedom. That is not easy. Not easy. As a good prophet, I can prophesy with absolute certitude that you will not be satisfied. There is not a single philosopher can be satisfied. Saint Thomas, no. Molina, no. Saint Augustine, no. If you can do that, you are God. Because, in fact, we will see it's a kind of mystery. To understand that, I simplify. Suppose you are on the cliff, and someone is in danger, but you are in the fog. Huh? You know, person is there. You have a chain or a rope. You hold, but you don't know how. They communicate. So we have to. I will say the problem is here. God, we know He knows everything. He's omniscient, omnipotent, etc. And on the other side, man is free. How to communicate? How to conciliate that? The how? Nobody can give an answer. They try, but nobody gives a satisfying answer. It's here we touch really the limit of the intellect, human intellect. We are obliged to accept we cannot explain everything. In philosophy, it's not in theology here. In philosophy, there is limit to the knowledge of God, to the knowledge of reality, to the explanation of what exists. There is a limit. Okay? So I continue. A few questions. Well, second, how it is possible to explain that an infinitely good and wise God, as if not willed, at least cause, as the primary cause of so much evil in the world. Because God is the cause of everything, therefore God is the cause of evil. Why is it possible to conciliate a good God with a God who make people disappear during a tsunami, an earthquake, or killed by ISIS? It is a very existential question. And some, like Albert Camus in France, a modern writer after the war, Albert Camus, existentialist, no? He said, you know, how is it possible to accept the existence of God when we see little children dying by starving, killed, innocent? It's a big, big, big problem. Or if the family there is someone has cancer, or as a disease, very serious, you know. I was a good Catholic, I went to Mass every Sunday, I gave money to the charity, and now God punishes me because, you know, that, you know, that is reality, huh? Ask your deacon when you will go to the wake, because many times the deacon are called to the wake, he will ask those questions. And sometimes people are revolted, furious against God. And you have to represent the church. Of course, the solution we give in philosophy are not satisfying. I think the answer is the cross of Jesus, but we are living now. But that is a theological answer. As a philosopher, I don't see any solution. But it is not a reason not to try to find one. You know, it is not because it is difficult to find something that we say, okay, I have nothing to do. We have to do our best. It is what we are doing now during this hour, to find how we can answer those questions. Okay, the third one, since God is all powerful, could He not have prevented the extent of such evil? Why He did not impede ISIS to begin to kill people, you know, etc., etc. There is no satisfying answer. But God gave us our mind to try to understand a little bit. You know what is a mystery? It's not something we cannot understand. It is something we never finish to understand. Because it is deeper than what we can understand. But we can try to understand a little bit. Next paragraph. How to respond to those questions? So we have 4 points we will study. First, we try to find what is evil. Because many times people don't know what is really evil. Secondly, the evil is not univocal. There are many kinds of evil. Thirdly, who is the subject of evil? Where do we find evil? And finally, what is the cause of that? And that is the 4th part of the class. That is very important. Not for the exam, but for your life, for your ministry. Very, very, very important. Because you will be confronted to those questions, be sure. I am confronted in my family with that problem now. And you know, it will be probably one of the most difficult things you will have to work on when you will be a deacon. But we must not be discouraged, because here we have only a teacher of philosophy. But as a deacon, you will have Jesus Christ, who teaches better than I, and you have the action of the Holy Spirit. In fact, here we have I think we have a problem. It can be not settled, but can be accepted better by faith than by reason. Because a level of reason is not easy. But reason is important. We'll see. We'll see. First, to know what is evil. If we don't have a good knowledge of evil, then we make some mistake in our judgment. So evil is opposed to God, to good. Huh? Evil is opposed to good, which is what is the good? The integrity, huh? The one, the whole, the perfection. You remember that? Huh? The one, the whole, the integrity, huh? The perfection. In English, all give in English holy. Huh? Remember that? Huh? Okay. So the perfection of being in all order, material, moral, and spiritual. Oh, it is an absence of integrity, absence of perfection, due, D-U-E, very important. Because a stone does not grow. It's not evil for a stone to be a stone and not a flower. You know? That means a perfection. For example, a flower must have attained a certain perfection the stone does not have. And a cat must have. Suppose your cat, it cannot run after mouse, but if you were in Vietnam, it will be in your food. Huh? Because it's good. I was told it's the state of rabbit. So when you take a rabbit, don't be afraid. Yeah? So it is the imperfection, the absence of integrity. You take a doctor. A doctor is making a surgery. He opened the belly, incidentally, see, hey, what we have to do now? So that doctor, that is evil. It's an evil for that doctor to ignore, because he must know. But it's not necessary for maybe the nurse to know that. But it's necessary for the doctor. You know? So that, it is the meaning, what we say, evil, absence of integrity, perfection, due. Now, varied meaning of evil. First, concretely, evil can be taken as the thing that is evil. That is the subject affected by evil. For example, an evil act. To kill someone with a knife, or with a gun, or to drink too much, etc., beer or vodka. Now that is evil in the thing. Evil in the thing. Robbery is evil, you know. Adultery is evil. It is in the thing, in the act. Okay? So it is evil in the act, or evil also in the man. A man who make others suffer killed by pleasure, you know, serial killer. Okay? Secondly, that is concretely. Formally, abstractly, the need to design the ill affecting the subject. So we don't consider the subject, we consider what is evil in that subject. For example, when you go to the doctor, you don't say, you know, oh, I digest very well, I see very well, I walk very well. Why do you come here? But you know, I have a big problem in my lung, I cough. Okay, you know? So, evil, we go to the ill, to the evil itself, and that is a second meaning, the second meaning, the evil or the absence of good itself. We can speak also about evil in itself as a negation of the perfection due to a nature and to a being. That, for me, is very, very, very important. It is the negation, the absence, the privation of a perfection. With the privation, that means we should have that, but we don't have that, due to a nature or to a being. So you see now, it's not a thing. It is an absence. That change. Because for many people, evil is a thing, is a reality. We can catch the evil. No, is an absence. I give you an example. Suppose you have a store. You have a store, and suddenly the bank calls you. You say, sir, be prudent, because your account this morning became red. And we realize that you have under $10,000 in the red. What is the evil for you? Not to have. Is minus $10,000 a reality? Is an absence of reality. So think about that. Evil is an absence of being. But absence of being or perfection, you should not have minus $10,000. But because you have minus $10,000, for you, it's evil. And you have to find a solution to that evil. Okay? What is be sick? Is the absence of good health, no? And when you go to the doctor, you try to find a solution to that absence, privation of good health. Let us continue. Let us try to find a stricter definition. As such, however, evil is not a simple negation. To be a cat is not an imperfection in regard to be a man. A cat as a cat is perfect. A man as a man is perfect. But if a man cannot talk, that is an absence of something you should have, you know. Okay? So, another evil consists in a privation, that is in the fact that a certain being lacks a good it requires to enjoy the integrity of its nature. In fact, that is the same thing as just before. A negation, a privation. I should have that, I don't have that. Why this imply that evil, very important, evil is non-being. Sometimes to tease the student, I say evil does not exist. Strictly speaking, it is true. Evil does not exist as a being, but it exists as an absence of being. That means it has not a real reality. We define evil by the good. We define evil by the good. You cannot define evil in itself, impossible. When we define what is evil, for example, you have a headache because you studied too much philosophy. But it is an absence of good to have a headache, but normally you should not have a headache. So the evil is not a thing, it is an absence of a perfection you should have. Okay? So what it implies that evil is not being, it does not imply that evil is not existent. Be careful. Is not being, but does not exist. We cannot say there is no evil at all. For example, what is to be, to starve, no? To be deprived from food? It is to not to have food. But that is a reality, no? It's not a being, but it is something, it's a fact. It's like you, when you have minus $10,000, is a fact. It is a fact. So, you know, we can say it exists, but as a privation. And when you study, you remember maybe philosophy of nature before Christmas. Aristotle defined potency also as a privation. So if you go to New York, when you are in Middletown, you are in Act 2 in regard to Cromwell, but we are not, we are in privation in regard to be in New York. And you have to fill that privation. Huh? So you have to put being to suppress the absence of being. Here, if you want to settle your problem, you have to take dollars and put that. Finally, the absence, the privation will disappear. But this is a fact. You buy a tomato or an apple. The apple is beautiful. When you arrive at home, you see just under there is a little part rotten. Is the apple perfect? No, there is an evil in the apple. What is that evil? It is the absence of goodness. That apple should be perfect. But I can speak about the essence of goodness because the rest is good. You know, it's good. Okay, so I continue. Huh? Blindness truly exists. But to say that Peter is blind is not to attribute blindness to him as a thing possessed. The predicate blind here does not signify being, but simply the reality of a lack or a defect of being. So it is a defect of being. But the definition of evil is made with relation to being. To being. I cannot define evil in itself. Evil in itself does not exist. Evil exists in a thing that is partially good. In regard with what thing they are good. Okay? Like you define your debt in regard of the one who has no debt. Okay? A kind of evil now. Metaphysical evil. Well, I will not insist on that, but I explain that. Some philosophers in the Middle Age, they said that the source of evil was the finitude of the being. Because a being is finite, the finitude is finite, is condemned to evil. So evil is a direct link with finitude. That is very serious. If you say evil depends on the finitude, the fact that the thing is finite, imagine, at the year I passed in theology. Mary, she is finite, no? Therefore, it is an evil to be finite. No. It's not an evil for a little rabbit to be a little. It's not an evil for a little, how do you say, sparrow not to be a condor. No, it's not evil. You know? So we cannot accept that the finitude of a thing is linked with necessarily with the evil. To be a little, not to have all the perfection another have or has, is not a necessity, not the evil. So here, the criticism. This usage is generally regarded as improper, since finitude in itself is not an evil. You know, in French we have les parfums, les meilleurs parfums sont dans les petits pots. The best perfume are in the smallest bottle. And the most fragrant perfume are not in the big Coca-Cola. They are in little, you know, interesting. There is a book written by Mr. Schumacher. It was a very good book. If you find that book, read it. It's not difficult. It is small is beautiful. You know that? Small is beautiful. Especially the chapter on metaphysics. It's a very good chapter. Small is beautiful. Because we have an inclination, here in America especially, more than Europe, to attach beauty to magnitude. A thing can be very beautiful, be very little. You know? Beauty is not attached to, virtue is not attached to grandeur. That is here. Okay. I go to physical evil. Physical evil is that affecting a nature. You know what is a nature? The essence as principle of activities, operation. So, physical evil affecting a nature, whether to be corporeal, that means with the body, or spiritual, with the soul, whose integrity is altered. Here, maybe you have a correction to do. Altered, A-L-T-E-E-R-E-D. I don't know if the correction is made, but we have to do that. So that we call that physical evil. For example, pain, suffering, sorrow, psychosis, neurosis. In that they deprive the soul of its natural equilibrium, just as blindness deprives the body of natural integrity. So we call that physical evil. It is a physical evil to be deaf. It's a physical evil to be blind. We should normally have sight, and we should normally hear correctly. Now, cataclysm, remark. Think about earthquake, volcanoes, tsunami. Such epidemics are sometimes listed as physical evil, although this again is not the proper usage. Evil rather lies in the physical effects and suffering. So evil is not in the fact itself. Evil is not in the tsunami. Evil is not in the earthquake. Evil is in the effects of the tsunami and the earthquake. You know? That accidentally follow the wake of the phenomenon. In fact, a tsunami, an earthquake, it is totally natural. We can explain that through science, but it's not good for us because after that we have to repair houses, we have to bury people who have killed, etc. You know, but the phenomenon itself is not evil. Sometimes people, you know, we have a river in Quebec. Every year that river is flooded. The world, we receive the water from New Hampshire, and the river, and the people are flooded. Every year they ask the help of the government, but they stay there. The next year, the same thing happened. Next year, the same thing happened. They want me to close to the river. Yes, but if you want to be close to the river with 2 feet in the water, except of some time, you will have flood. No? So flood in itself is not evil. I will say what is evil is the stupidity of the person who continue to stay there.
But why does the government keep paying them?
Yeah.
You have to press another place. It's the same for earthquake, for slide land. You know, sometimes we are not logical, no? I saw a movie about San Francisco. I would not like to live in San Francisco after I was seeing that movie. It was made by National Geographic. Maybe you saw that. Huh? If you see that, then ask your friend from San Francisco to watch that, they will move. in that movie was following another movie made by scientifically, by a scientific about New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
So the movie was, what will happen if a levee breaks? And in the movie, everything is there was realized at level. It's scientific. They can calculate the level of water. When you see the movie, they give that 2 days after the flood. And on the same, they presented the movie about San Francisco. San Francisco, it would be, the day there will be an earthquake. Scientifically, that is scientific. Huh? It will be, the building will not collapse. That is true. The building are so well done, no, they will not collapse. But what will happen? Gas pipe will break. Fire, and when they want to extinguish the fire, water pipe also will break. And there are so many people. In 1906, there were only 200,000 people. Today, there are millions of people. He said the problem, people will not be able to escape. And they will be burned. You know, when you see that, but people continue to stay there. Huh? They are on the most dangerous place on earth. But sometimes we have to be logical with ourselves. If I put myself in danger, I know that will happen a day or another. The day that happens, I don't say, God, you are not just. Huh? It's not evil. The evil is not in the earthquake. The evil is not the landslide. The evil is the fact that, knowing the danger, I continue to stay there. I saw another movie recently in Canada, British Columbia. There was a landslide, huh? Landslide. And there was landslide 28 years ago. And now they come back. But people come back, and 20 years after, they have the same problem, the same in Peru. Huh? The same problem in Peru. When they train once or 10 years, but when they train, it is thousands of houses are wet, and the people, they know the danger, but they stay there. So the danger, the evil is not in the physical evil. Okay?
Father,
yes.
You're right, I'm not satisfied with that answer, but it just seems odd that, you know, before the break, we were talking about how God is in everything we're doing, and God is in your teaching, and God is just wonderful.
Yes.
And now when something bad happens, we go, well, God's not there.
No, God is there. God sustains the tsunami. The tsunami obeys the law of science.
But it just seems like that, yeah, they're following the laws of nature, that God...
The law of nature.
And bad things happen to people that have done nothing wrong. You could be living...
Oh, nothing wrong? In New Orleans, there is nothing wrong?
I would say that people do get injured during natural disasters where they had no...
Yeah, no responsibility direct, but in fact, you know, the government or the people, they should say, hey, let us stop to be people under the level of the sea. You know, if a tsunami arrives, it is when people will disappear completely. It's not impossible to have a tsunami in New Orleans, in Galveston. You know? Well, I don't want to insist on that, but we must...
I guess what I'm trying to understand is how, you know, ultimately God's plan causes disaster that causes physical evil. How is that different than what you're talking about?
Yeah, so that is physical evil. Physical evil. Right. But the most important is not physical evil, it is moral evil. Right. But we have an answer for that after, okay? That we are posing the problem. Now, moral evil consists essentially in the disorder of the will, and we call that in philosophy fault or mistake, etc. And sin in theology. The word sin is a theological word. Strictly speaking, in philosophy, we don't use the word sin like in psychology. But we can use that if you want. There is no sin to use the word sin. Okay? So this is the primary evil in the universe and the best elaborated in the context of proper subject. So what is the subject of evil? That's the problem. First, existence of evil. Physical evil, moral evil. We know what is evil. Now, a being that is good. A being that is good, the subject. What is the subject? Is the one under the evil. If you say, John is a Catholic, John is an American, John is an accountant, John is a golf player, etc. So the subject that need to put under is John. And on John I put Catholic, the idea of Catholic, the idea of American, the idea of golfer, etc. Good father, etc. So what is the subject under evil? Or if you want, where evil is in? Is in the subject. Somebody or something carry evil. Huh? Because evil is a fact. It must be somewhere. Huh? It must be somewhere. So first, since evil is a privation, it can exist only in a subject or in a being that is as such good. Because being as being is good. The fact a thing exists, it is good. Therefore, if evil is a fact, it must be in a being. And being is something good. Lucifer. Does Lucifer exist? Is existing a being a good thing? Yes. So the existence of Lucifer is good. Yeah. He exists. God makes Lucifer. He knows him, he wills him, he gives existence. The evil is in Lucifer. But the evil is not Lucifer. We cannot personify, of course in poesy, we have a tendency to personify the evil. Huh? The good, the God of good, the God of evil, huh? Manichaean. In fact, it is good for Lucifer, it is good for God to that Lucifer exists. Otherwise, he will not exist. If we accept that every being is necessarily true and good, we must accept that even for the prince of evil. So, and Lucifer is not essentially evil. He's intelligent. He's intelligent. He exists. He exists. He's going to exist. It's better to exist, not to exist. But how to explain that? That's the problem. Okay? The notion of the subject. Huh? I continue. Evil presupposes good. Evil cannot exist uniquely as evil. Why? We saw that evil is a privation. A privation cannot exist in itself. A privation exists always in a subject, and that subject is partially good. And we say not totally, because evil is absence of integrity, absence of the totality as good. You know? So evil presupposes good, both as the subject that is affect and the perfection that it negates. So we define evil, for example, we say Lucifer is the prince of lie, or lying, how say that? Okay. We define Lucifer by opposition to what? Truth. You know, we define to truth. But what is falsity is an absence of truth. But Lucifer, as a being, is a reality. But he does not possess all the perfection he should possess as an angel. Instead of being an angel of truth, he's an angel of lie, you know, inducing people into lie, etc., into error. So evil cannot be total and absolute. Evil in itself does not exist. It exists in a being. It exists because that being does not have all the perfection it should have. Okay? If evil were a denial of the subject in this reality, then evil will annihilate itself for lack of something to affect. In fact, evil in itself is negation of being. Is negation of being. So if there is a negation of being, if that negation of being is something, is a fact, it can be only in a being. So we cannot think about evil without thinking about being. You cannot speak about a rotten tomato if there is not a little part of little good, or other tomatoes are good. I mean, okay? That maybe help the people to relativize the notion of evil. Huh? You know, the movies now, they represent evil as a being. Huh? They incarnate evil as we incarnate God in Jesus Christ. They are incarnation. No. Evil cannot be incarnated because it is an absence of perfection. In a real being, in a real being, the evil cannot exist alone. Absolutely no. Okay? Because if evil could exist alone, it will be God. Because what is that? The definition of God? To exist absolutely as sin. So that means evil exists always in relation with some being, and being as being is something good. Okay? I go to next page. Now the subject of physical evil. Oh, physical evil, earthquake, tsunami, okay? Fire, forest fire, etc. The subject of physical evil is the material universe in general. So evil is in nature. Evil is in the earth, is in microbe, germs, etc. Okay? It is somewhere. It must have a subject. That this absence is in a subject. Okay? I continue. But especially living beings who are able to undergo physical or moral suffering. Evil. I give you an example. I remember when I was a young teacher, there was a case in Ontario of a boy. He was at that time 13 years old. And that boy never had the sense of touching. He never suffered. He did not know what is suffering in his body. It was a perpetual nightmare for his parents. He had to be supervised 24 hours a day. Because imagine, if you have no sense of touching, you can put your hand on the stove, you can cut, no suffering. So he was continually supervised by someone because he can do anything and he will die. He will die. So suffering is not totally evil. No? Suffering can be also useful for a better good. When you have a toothache and you suffer, what do? You go to the dentist to repair. If you have no suffering, then when you will be 60 years old, all your teeth will disappear. Because you don't suffer. Suffering is not necessary and evil. It's an alarm, an alarm. Okay?
So, Father, we can choose evil or we can choose good while we're on earth.
Yes, right? But here I speak about physical evil.
Okay.
You don't choose that. You don't choose tsunami. You don't choose earthquake. You don't choose toothache. You don't choose cancer. But when you suffer, it can be for you very useful to know that we have a problem. Somebody has no suffering. What will happen when he will be really sick? It will be too late.
He did.
Too late. Okay. Okay. So physical. The subject of physical evil. A wine may go sour, or a substance may turn out to be poison But properly speaking, evil is not a such thing. You know, some things are poison. Well, do you eat sometimes tapioca? You know tapioca? Mm-hmm. You know that tapioca comes from a plant, and that plant contains a violent poison. We call that manioc. In Cameroon, people cultivate that. If you eat manioc directly, you die. And people are fed with manioc. So what they do, when they cut manioc, they put that in water, and little by little the poison disappears, and after they make tapioca. Yeah. Another example, colchicine. Colchicine. Colchicine is a poison, violent poison. But it is the best remedy for those who have gout. The best remedy is you take 2 or 3 pills, after that your gout disappears. A poison can be used for something. Of course, you don't take it a large quantity, but it is used as poison. And the sorcerer in Africa, they knew the secret of plant like that, to heal or to kill, depending what you pay. If you pay to kill, it will kill. If you pay, you know, okay. So that, you know, apparently, colchicine or manioc is dangerous, but it is a source of food. Another example, you have a snake. When I was in Cameroon, there was a Christian brother. It was interesting with the study of snake. In his laboratory, it was filled with snake, of course, dead. And he knew exactly how to take a snake without being bit. Here is an art. Our African cook, they were afraid. Yeah, right, took the snake, you know, he took. And what they do, they make the snake spit the poison. And with that poison, they use that for remedies, you know. Interesting. So not everything apparently evil is necessarily evil. But, I'll continue. It is man who classifies them or make them evil because of his needs or the use of they put in them. So suffering is physical evil, is true. Though it affects man and animal differently. What is the difference in regard with suffering? An animal does not know in the future. He knows only the present. So he is enduring the present. You know? But man knows the future. Not only he suffer, but he suffer by anticipation. By anticipation. So man is able to suffer more than animal because he is aware of his suffering. Not only he suffers, but he knows he is suffering, so he can concentrate on his suffering, and this serves to intensify the evil. In fact, the best way not to suffer is to be busy. I remember in 1998 when I came here, I had a zone, horrible, shingle. I was not able to sleep more than 2 hours. It was very, very tough. But it's funny, when I was working, I was forgetting that. Think about that. Now, when you are very busy, concentrated on something, you have the impression that your problem are physical, even physical problem. Okay? Because there is a part of psychology, of course, in suffering. Okay? Because we are conscious. We are conscious. And the more we think about that, the more we suffer. No? So it's better to do something different, to be busy. And the counsel I give, the advice I give to people, be busy the most you can. The more you will be busy, the less you will think about your problem, physical problem. Okay, so death now. But the problem becomes particularly acute when we speak about death, because man alone knows that he will die. He's capable of anguish when we face death. I remember I saw in Peru a big van filled with chicken. living chicken because there is no refrigerator. So, in those chicken, they were happy. And they were going to the slaughter, but they were happy. No problem. The cows, of course, when they arrive at the last minute, maybe they have a certain anguish, but during the, you say, you will die. But think about those who are the death row for 15 years, huh? Every morning, they never know what will happen. In fact, they are living dead, those people. They are the living dead. They have sometimes it's maybe more suffering to wait for death than to die for those people. Okay? So even death is not an absolute evil. Why? Because the soul survives the body. It's not a total disappearance. We continue to exist with our identity as a human being. Huh? Okay? So if a person does not believe in an afterlife, then death, of course, takes away the problem. The evil annihilates itself. You know, the Epicurean, they have a theory in front of death. They say, don't be afraid by death, because if you are still living, death is not there. And when death will be there, you will not know that. So don't be afraid.
You only die once.
You will never. Okay. Next paragraph, moral evil. The immediate subject of moral evil is the soul, the will. Okay? With its power obeying and disobeying the norm of conscience, natural law. So what is evil, moral evil? The privation of rectitude required by the natural law. Privation of rectitude required by the natural law. A privation affecting your free will. Your free will. Which, through its own fault, lack the perfection it ought to have. So, if we compare to physical evil is always an evil suffered, whether this affects a corporal or spiritual nature. We can be evil, psychological evil is a real evil, psychosis, for example. But moral evil is just the opposite. The result from the voluntary activity. Moral evil comes from your will. Physical evil comes against your will. Okay? Therefore, we are responsible for that. Okay? It is a good expression. It is a self-mutilation. When you do something immoral, you cut yourself. You deprive yourself from integrity, moral integrity. You mutilate yourself. So, moral evil is a consequence of freedom. So, thus, moral evil is properly constituted by this very activity. Then what makes moral evil? It is the activity of my freedom. And therefore, I am responsible for the moral evil. I am not determined. Because a voluntary privation, a refusal to enter here and now on the path of right action for the purpose of the good, that is not the good. You remember the voluntas ut natura, voluntas ut libera. The will as nature, we tend necessary, but the particular good, we make a choice and we pay the consequence of our bad choice. Such a negative positivity, placing of a refusal of or a negation, make the will disorder. In fact, we will the absence of perfection. We know that it's a disorder. Of course, there is something good. I drink vodka. It's good. I like that, but after 5-6 glasses, I should stop. But it is fire. I have more to extinguish the fire. But I am responsible. I create my own morality. I cannot say that it's because of God. Okay? I go to page 331, not the last paragraph. The causality involved in evil. That is the central question. We finished. We have 15 minutes for that. So God cannot cause the evil. God is not and cannot be in any way the cause of evil. Why? Because He is infinitely goodness, infinitely perfect. So we have to hold that. God cannot because he is infinitely perfect, infinitely love, he cannot will evil. And desire only to communicate good. His desire, his love is not to produce evil, it is to produce good, total love. We saw that before, okay? Now, God permits physical evil. Because when he created the nature with the law of science, in that law of science, you know, volcano, earthquake are predictable. Yet in the physical order there is undeniably pain and suffering, and if these were to no good purpose, then they will be unmitigated evil. That means if suffering has no meaning, it will be something irrational, nonsense. That means every suffering has a meaning, but we don't know the meaning. That is the principle we saw just before, a sufficient reason. There is nothing without a reason for that. We don't see that, but we trust the Creator who sees the whole plan. We see only a little part. No, we must accept we don't know all the puzzle, the piece of the puzzle. A good example, that is a puzzle. You have a puzzle with 5,000 pieces. In Africa, we have no television, so some confrères spend their evening after meal to make puzzle, huge puzzle. But one piece in itself has no meaning. The meaning, it is with the totality. That means every piece of the puzzle has a meaning. Every suffering, physical suffering, has a meaning. But we don't know. We must accept we cannot know everything. We are creatures. Okay? I continue. So, but God, through His divine providence, to be the future, orders even the physical evil to the good and to the happiness of man. In other words, God permits such evil so that out of them a greater good may come. But sometimes that greater good, we cannot see that. We see that only in the future. I spoke about my own experience. When my superior asked me, what do you want as study at university? I said science. I would like to teach science. I like that. Or maybe pedagogy. Oh, my little brother, we need a teacher in philosophy. You will do your license in philosophy. For me, it was almost stupid. But you know, I was stupid, I accepted. But now, after 60 years, I say, 55 years, I say, God, you know, at the moment, it was a contradiction for me. That contradicted my desire. But after that, I realized that it was a plan of God. Sometimes we cannot see that on earth. Sometimes God allows, like for me, to see that. And to witness to that to others. That means some difficulties, some of suffering, even sometimes on earth we can see the reason why. But the majority of the time we don't know. And we call that in theology faith and hope. Okay? I continue. So in other words, God permits such evil so that out of them greater good. You know, the perfect example of that is the Passion of Jesus Christ. Is the perfect example. The absolute example, unique is that. Okay? Seen in this way, physical evils do not merit being called evil in the strict sense, since from this perspective, they are not privation, but rather accidental negation of a greater good. Accidental. That means for a certain time, we don't have what we desire. At a certain time, we have to suffer. We have a certain time, we have to do that, etc. And after, you see, Father knows best. Father knows best. Okay? Next paragraph. God is not the cause of moral evil. As we have seen, moral evil results ultimately from the fallible liberty free agent. God is still good in giving man freedom. God is infinitely loving when He gave us freedom, even if He knows we will use our freedom against Himself. That is love. Okay. If it will seem not, for free will is undeniable perfection. And if man makes ill use of freedom, then God is still good in giving him this perfection. So, free will of perfection to possess self-determination. What is the perfection of free will? Is not to do what I want, is to do what I have to do. To control myself, dominion, determination. To conform the self to the order desired by God. In fact, in our Father, thy will be done. Fiat. And thus, to collaborate in God to creative activity, it is a perfection. Moreover, fallibility can explain the possibility of evil, but not the reality of evil. Jesus Christ was free, Mary was free. That does imply they commit evil. It is not because I am free that I must necessarily commit evil. It is not because I have a gun that I must necessarily kill someone. But the reality of evil is absolutely contingent. Evil is not necessary in itself. Why? Because evil is not a being. It's an absence of being. And has no other cause than the free decision of intelligence as a free decision. In fact, moral evil does not depend on God, depend on man. But the mystery is why God gave us freedom. Because He did not want to make us robot. He can make robot. No, He wants free man. Of course, that is the mystery of the love of God. Okay? Now, evil has no per se cause. Evil is not an absolute. Huh? Evil is not an absolute. It cannot be a God. It cannot be a being in itself. That is important. It is only in absence in her being. Absence in a being. Imperfection. Yes, brother.
Mathematics is a concept, and the empty set, the empty, is the empty set. So I can see that evil is the empty set. It's equals to zero.
A mathematic.
Yes.
You know, be careful. Mathematics is the domain of pure reason. So in mathematics,
yeah, but I tried to make sense what you said about evil, and I get some kind of conflict with what the brother says about that. And for me, I'm getting the concept that evil is the absence of everything, is the empty set.
Yeah, it's empty, privation.
Empty privation.
Yeah, it's a privation. What is privation? The absence of emptiness. In fact, one of the most suffering in our time is solitude. What is solitude? Emptiness. Is an evil to be alone. It is suffering in many people. Emptiness in itself is not an evil. But when it is emptiness of something we should have, that is evil. You know the word due, very important. The word due. D-U-E. We should have that. We should have that perfection. Otherwise, it's not evil. It's a pure privation, you know, but it's not evil. Evil is when we don't have what we should have by nature. Okay, I have 4 minutes. Okay. The providence and the existence of evil. So, the notion of God providence govern the whole creature in all the parts. God conduct everything and everything in particular. The whole and each part. He controls the whole universe and each atom one by one. Okay? Next page. God's providence respects man's freedom. Proceeding from the infinite knowledge of God and from His absolutely perfect will, God's providence never takes on the capricious aspect like the pagan, no? But are always in a way consonant with the nature of each creature. God always is wise. Is wise in the decision. Is loving and wise. Therefore, in reference to man, the actions of God's providence will respect his freedom, even his power of refusal. God accept, even give you freedom, even if he knows you will abuse that freedom. So the consequence, first, we have four consequences. First, if God has given man freedom, then in a sense, he is powerless to take freedom away. God cannot take off freedom because he is wise. So his decrees are eternal. He will not annihilate us. No. He will continue. For him, it is his love that continues to sustain us even if we offend him. No? So that is conformed to his freedom. Secondly, God is the primary cause of the being of the act. God sustains the being. He doesn't sustain the absence of being. If there is an absence of being in your action, moral action, that comes from you and not from God. 3. However, God does not cause human act sinfulness. The disordination or privation of rectitude in the act constitute its sinfulness comes from, not from God, but from the sinner. And 4, evil itself insinuates in the plan of providence. Because of God's respect for human nature and for his prerogative of freedom, evil that insinuates itself in the plan. If there is evil in the world, in the plan of God, it's not because of God, it is because of man. God is not the cause of ISIS. So God allows evil to enter his providential plan. So we say he allows and makes that paragraph is very so important. Allows evil not as essential but accidental in virtue of his mercy, wisdom, and divine power. God has been said, make suffering serve a purpose without that. And even in the case of moral evil, God offers a sinner the possibility of good. And next page is 2. This too is the greater God, the good. In fact, we don't know, but everything God does is for the greater good. When your mothers, fathers say, go bed at 10, you say, I don't want. It is for your greater good. And today you are in good health. When my father say, no chocolate, no candy, but milk, you will drink milk. And now we are 6 living, and everyone, we have all our teeth. Father knows best, but we like to have chocolate and candy. No, milk. Okay? So in fact, God, the greater good, in fact, is a mystery. We cannot explain that. It is the conclusion. In any event, divine providence and governance cannot be blamed for the evil of the world. There is a mystery. Nonetheless, there is no injustice. In fact, we cannot ask God, explain me why that happened. The classical example in the Bible is Job. Job is the model, exact that. So, general conclusion. The infallible mystery of the divine nature. At the philosophical level, one cannot penetrate into the intimacies of the divine nature or into the mysteries of the divine plan. It will be seen that the more man penetrates, the better he understands that it is beyond him. In fact, it's true for science. The more you study, the more you realize you don't know. And Cardinal de Cuse, in the Renaissance, Cardinal de Cuse, he called that la docta ignorantia. That's the learned ignorance. It is the ignorance of the learned. The more you study, the more you realize that you don't know. My experience when I went to the Library of Congress in 1966 during the summer, I studied Catholic University. When I saw all those books, see, I realized that I know. so little. Huh? So little. So only a fraction of all that is able to do. We cannot do the whole. It is the same in a company. Not every worker knows exactly. When they build a plane, Boeing, not every worker knows exactly what this is wrong. But all that together make a plane, a 747. You know? So this will appear a sufficient justification for his intellectual life. In fact, the wisdom he attained by ever deeper and deeper reflection is itself a springboard to higher knowledge. In fact, we have to reflect on that, but we must accept we have no all the explanation. And that is difficult because when we meet people, they want to have an answer in 30 seconds. Sometimes I say, you know, I take 45 hours for the same thing.
Father, can we say philosophically that if man is in potency to achieve good, and if evil is the absence of good, so because there's evil in the world, that helps man to be in potency, because if there was no evil, he would not be in potency, he would be in act.
In potency is not necessarily evil. It's positive to be in potency. To be in potency, to become a little is not evil, it is good.
Right.
So we be careful that the finitude, you remember that, is not a cause of evil.
Right.
The fact we are not a deacon now is not the evil.
I hope not.